Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. What's up, Bernie? What's up, Max? What is up, Alan? How you guys doing? Let me know if the audio is working as per usual. You never know. You never know around here. Hey, buddy. Sorry, my dog he's being very. Oh. Hey, Logic, I know you're on stream. I know. Okay, that's enough of that. What's up, Estens? Dude, I should have gotten you on stream here. You're the real expert. All right, so yeah, I was sitting around last night. I was planning the usual Magic Lines stream out. For anyone who stumbled into this stream who isn't in my normal trading and investing orbit, I'm Steven. I'm a full-time trader. I run a trading and investing Discord. And I have been using OpenClaw since basically the day it started going viral to try to, support my own needs as a trader and to potentially build some cool stuff. So I was sitting around last night. I was thinking about what to talk about on stream today. And honestly, I'm just like fucking tired, man. I'm tired of the war. I'm tired of just like every day. It says like we got the Monday thing today. Oh, he tweeted a thing in the morning and then the market went down. I'm tired of it. The AI stuff is something that breeds like, hope and life into my day-to-day existence. It's a miserable time to be trading. It's a miserable time to be short-term investing, but it's an amazing time to be exploring this tech because it's really, really freaking cool, honestly. And it's also fucking terrible. So I've had a lot of people asking me in the Discord various questions about what I'm doing, how do I use this stuff? And I figured since I'm burned out on the markets, maybe I can, transfer some knowledge to people in a different domain. So for anybody who's thinking about using this stuff, or maybe you are using this stuff and you're hoping to pick up some tips and tricks, hopefully I can help out. This is going to be an honest stream. This is not going to be an Alex Finn stream where I tell you that you're going to go to bed tonight and wake up with a multi-million-dollar business coded tomorrow. That ain't how it works. My journey using this stuff has been quite the rocky one, and although I don't consider myself to be an expert on this, please don't put me on any sort of pedestal. I have legitimately put at least like 400 hours into this stuff at this point. Like, I am grinding this stuff every day, and not just at home, because now the technology enables me to go on walks with my dog and build stuff, to have my Tesla drive me to pickleball and to build stuff on the way there, to sit in the shower and build stuff, because now the way I build things, well, before I didn't build things, right? Because I don't know how to code, but now I can build things. And instead of building things on my keyboard, I can build stuff with my voice by talking to this autonomous sort of agentic entity that takes my thoughts and translates them into stuff. And that's really cool. It's really cool. And it's enabled like a whole bunch of productivity for me that or paths to it that didn't exist before. To be straight with you, I tried to plan out a stream that was like scripted and well thought out and organized. I usually kind of come on here and just like wing everything off the top of my head. I had a nice little slideshow built out by my agent, whole script written. We had some problems with the script. The slideshow doesn't match it exactly. There are some things on there where I'm going to be like, that's not exactly right. I don't believe that. So be warned, this whole presentation, or whatever it is, monologue, I guess, may be a little bit rocky, but you know how it goes around here. I've gotten some questions from you guys before the stream. If you have any questions as I go along, drop them in the chat. Unlike the the streams with the charts, like I want to kind of have more of an interactive conversation with you guys as we go. I'm not going to like put all the questions at the end. So I'll just talk through some stuff. If any of it's interesting, you want to know more, drop a question. Maybe I can answer it. Maybe I can't. There's a lot of stuff I still don't know. But I do know that if I sat down with any of you who wanted to do this for like 30 minutes, I could save you hundreds of hours of pain. I don't think I could help you build a multi-million-dollar business autonomously yet, but I can save you a lot of pain. There's a lot of stuff that I did that I didn't have to do that nobody should have to go through. So hopefully we're going to take off some of the left tail, if you will, today. So first thing I have on the screen here is the famous Dunning-Kruger curve, right? You've got the chart of confidence and experience. And to me, this like maps perfectly with like my own experience with using this agentic AI stuff. You discover this stuff. You're like, oh my God, this is the future. This is everything. This can do anything I want it to do. Humans are obsolete. We're going to be in a post-scarcity world in like 6 months. I got to escape the permanent underclass. You start using it. It looks like magic. You set things up. It works. You build stuff. Stuff comes on your screen from your words. You're like, oh my God, this is so good. And then you fall off the top of the roof and you hit the ground and you break your neck, but you don't die, but you're in a lot of pain. You've entered the valley of despair. You realize that this isn't what you thought it would be. A lot of what you thought was real is actually this like facade. It's just a house of cards. And underneath all of the stuff you built is just this fragile, spaghettified collection of code and workflows that feel like they work, but they actually don't. And then the next thing you know it, you are spending 9 hours debugging the stuff you built for every 15 minutes that you're building and actually doing things. And then you wonder, how did I get here? Was this even worth it? I feel like I am now midway between the slope of enlightenment and the plateau of sustainability. I am not full plateau yet, but I see the plateau. It's over the horizon there. I've got eyes on it. I'm enlightened. I know that I know what I don't know. I don't know if that made any sense, but I'm moving towards sustainability. So that's where I'm at in the journey, at a high level. Talk about what that means in terms of stuff that is useful or applicable to all of you guys. Are any of you using this yet? Are you using OpenClaw? Are you just using Claude code directly? Or are you just talking to ChatGPT? Curious how you guys are using this stuff, what you're using it for, what your experience is with it. Let me know. Let me know in that little chat window. What I've come to realize now, and this is kind of going to be like this is like a Tarantino thing. We're kind of skipping to the end right away here. If you want to embrace this idea of full autonomy, this grand shining vision of a city on the hill that's going to change your life and change all of humanity, you're going to end up with 3 roles here in your setup. You're going to have the creative, the builder, and the operator, right? The creative is supposed to be you. The end state of this is that you walk around, you take a walk with your dog, you think up a business idea, you think up a way to fix your existing business, you tell it to your agent, you come home, it's built, it's amazing, and life is grand, right? So you're the creative, your agent is the builder, right? Very early on in doing this, you realize that you need like an operator, right? Like every business has that guy that makes sure the wheels are greased and they're turning, nothing's on fire, right? The integrator, if you will, maybe, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And you realize early on that you need to build this into your systems because you realize that stuff doesn't work the way that you think it will. The agent tells you, oh, yeah, great idea, we'll build this, done. And then it doesn't work. And then you start realizing I need to be building out some sort of operator end of this business. And so you start building crons to check your crons, and then you build crons to check the crons that check the crons, and then it becomes a disaster, right? So what I've finally arrived at is that if you don't properly think through and build out the operator end of this business, right, then you are going to become the operator here. You are going to become the one putting out fires, and then you have basically created a situation for yourself where you've built a business that doesn't actually build anything, but you do put out fires all day. Digital fires, hopefully, but fires nonetheless. And that's no fun. So I'll talk a little bit more about how I did that later. First, I want to jump back to kind of the big question for most of you listening, which is, should you even bother using OpenClaw? Like, why bother? Like, my feed these days, I feel like there's like some like bot propaganda operation going on because every time Claude launches some new feature, I get all these memes from these sus accounts with a picture of like Jesse from Breaking Bad crying and talking about, oh, people who spent $600 on a Mac Mini, now that Claude can control your computer. I have a lot of people asking me like, why do you still use OpenClaw? Like, because doesn't Claude Cowork do everything now? The answer to that question is definitely not. But also, I would venture that 9 out of 10 of you who are watching this stream should probably not touch OpenClaw. It's probably unnecessary for you, right? I think that Claude Cowork gets you 80% of where you probably want to go with like 10 to 20% of the effort, right? It's in that like additional 20% where there could be like truly something like spectacular built, and some of you like me will be called to the Siren song of that, and hopefully not shipwrecked on the rocks. What is the difference between Claude Cowork, OpenClaw? Claude Cowork, it's a desktop app hosted on Anthropic or whatever their servers are. OpenClaw, open source. You self-host it. I have mine set up on a Mac Mini. You can use a VPS. I've used the VPS before. I think the Mac Mini is great. I think that like people talking about the cost of the Mac Mini here, it's like the $600 cost of the Mac Mini compared to the cost of tokens I'm going to burn is basically going to be a rounding error. So like I wouldn't have that be the thing that that stops you unless you're trying to like really keep those costs in check. But then you're going to have to make a lot of compromises, I think, on the models that you use. Your cost for Claude Cowork is pretty straightforward. There's a $20, $100, $200 a month plan. I highly doubt you can do anything useful on the $20 plan. The $100 a month plan is very borderline. I have a $200 a month plan and a $100 a month plan running on my OpenClaw. And I frequently burn through both of them. I'm considering just getting two $200 a month plans. This is also in addition to a $200 a month Codex plan that I have. OpenClaw, you can use the subscriptions. The Codex subscription is far easier to set up. You can still set up and use the Claude Max subscription with OpenClaw. I use it. There's a lot of mixed information out there about whether it works, whether it's kosher. It mostly works for me. I use the API a lot still. The API is much more reliable, doesn't go down on you. So a lot of the crons that I have built out to do stuff in the background that are, critical for running software I've built, I usually put those on the API because you run into a lot of breakage on the front end trying to use the zero out there. But Codex works fairly flawlessly on your plan with OpenClaw. So cost on OpenClaw, way more variable. Like you can spend anything from $0 to $3,000 a month, no problem, depending on what your exact setup is that you use. The setup process for these two things, Claude Cowork, it just works. It's great. It's great software. Like the first thing I always point people to when they start using this, it's the first technology people ever interact with in their life that just like teaches them how to use it. Like even my dad can use this stuff, and my dad is like the ultimate boomer, right? Contrast this with OpenClaw. The setup process is, oftentimes something I would not wish upon my worst enemy. I had to set this up initially using ChatGPT to walk me through everything because nothing worked. Like virtually nothing worked. It's a lot of steps to setting it up. It's a huge pain in the ass, honestly. I think if I sat down with one of you and we did it live, we would just go through it, no problem, second time around. But like when you try to do it on your own, it's messed up. The way to hack this, if you are advanced enough, is to run an instance of Codex or Claude Code on the Mac Mini where you're installing it, and run it, in the context of the OpenClaw directory. Then you can have it kind of like be there co-piloting you and fixing all the shit that breaks in the process while you set it up. When I started using OpenClaw, I did not know how to do this yet. I did not know this was yet a thing. I didn't really know how to use Claude Code or Codex like natively on my computer, giving it access to, files. My first experience vibe coding was basically just jumping straight into OpenClaw. But now, if I had to go back and do it again, I would use Claude Code or Codex to set up the OpenClaw. That alone, that unlock alone, the realization that I could run Claude Code or Codex on the Mac Mini and debug OpenClaw, that would have saved me like at least 200 hours of pain. So, Marty, what's up? Good to have you in the chat. You're not AI curious. You just want the alpha. It's all right. Well, I'm sure we'll be shorting some things in the coming days. So, what's up, Daniel? You're using Perplexity Computer, building out research processes. Nothing for execution yet. That's cool. Max, you're using it for some coding projects, not using any agentic stuff though. You talking about OpenClaw? Are you using OpenClaw for coding projects? You're not sure if dumb or smart. Probably both. Yeah, that's probably correct. No, you're not dumb. Yeah, anyway, just quick little finish up here on the Claw cowork comparison. One huge advantage of OpenClaw used to be the ability to use Telegram or Discord to have kind of like multi-chat threads, organize everything, much nicer interface to talk to. Claude has rolled that out, so that is not a differentiator anymore. You can use Claude into Discord, no problem, with some important caveats that I'll go over. What's up, Tom? Good to have you, buddy. I know you've got some questions. Drop them in there for me. I'll see if I can answer them. Yeah, the other huge differentiator of OpenClaw versus Claude Cowork used to be the ability for OpenClaw to interface with so many different things, like using your browser or using your computer, for example. Both of those have kind of been competed away at the moment with the recent Claude updates. There's still more connectors for OpenClaw, but I don't think that that's going to continue to be a barrier between the two things. The two things that are huge. OpenClaw has like a 24/7 uptime, right? So if you're running some sort of things that need to kind of keep going without you, even when you sleep, OpenClaw is going to be superior at that. And the memory architecture and the way that OpenClaw handles context, especially across channels, this is going to be the big thing that you don't really know about. Like if you've never used OpenClaw, or that you didn't know how much you needed it until you use OpenClaw and then you try to use Claude Cowork. This is like the big thing that gets people like me. Like I tried to use Claude Cowork and just replace OpenClaw with Claude Cowork because I was so frustrated with OpenClaw. Didn't work. I started just building out OpenClaw myself to try to fix all of the problems that Claude Cowork had that were, making it fall short of OpenClaw. And then I realized OpenClaw already exists. I'll just go back to OpenClaw. OpenClaw has these nice kind of soul.md, agents.md files, memory files. They're injected like with every like session. It has a very nice process of like handing context off to itself from session to session. It creates this like seamless experience of talking to it that you get used to and is not really the norm. Talking with agents normally, there's this cross-channel awareness across all of your projects that's very seamless. Claude Cowork doesn't have that. So if you're working on like multiple projects, they have like dependencies with one another, you're trying to use it in various agents and different elements of these projects, and you want it all to interface, it's going to suck. It's going to be a terrible experience for you. But if the way you want to use this stuff is you want to sit in front of it and you have like an app you're building or something and you just want to talk to it and build the app, then you're not really going to miss any of that stuff that OpenClaw gives you. It's not going to be it's not going to be necessary for you, right? OpenClaw is if you are somebody like me who's willing to eat a bunch of glass for many weeks on end because you're trying to get to this end state where you have this like very autonomous business running that is doing a bunch of stuff while you're not there. That's the main reason to use this. If you're just like ad hoc coding something and you just only care about coding stuff in front of the screen, I don't see any reason to deal with the pain and suffering that OpenClaw will give you. What's up, Doc? How are you? How do you use this to build a car wash empire? Dude, I have a buddy who just manufactures weed gummies. I showed him AI along with another friend, and he's using it in his business, and he's just blown away by the stuff he could do with it, man. So I don't know if that's a tongue-in-cheek question, but I would bet I could figure out like 100 ways to use this in your business if I sat down and talked to you, right? I would probably start off by just thinking about the most annoyingly painful thing that you have to do repeatedly. When you wake up, you're like, ah, fuck, I got to do this thing again. It sucks. That's probably a thing that like AI can help you with in a lot of instances. So like automating away some of those shitty elements of your business, good place to start, I think. Marty, you crack me up, buddy. Troy, what's up, dude? Troy is using Hermes to build a scalping bot for things like 15 to 60-minute up-down BTC markets. Probably just going to get run over by jump trading. Yeah, probably. I would actually like to talk to you more about that. I'm very interested in using this stuff to try to build out bots. I've just sort of like, I've put a pin in that for myself. Like I started building out some of the infrastructure and the training for it. And then I just realized that like, I care so much about building out these like workflows to reduce the barrier from me like thinking things to like them coming into reality. And so I've kind of like reversed course and just put a lot more effort into building out the infrastructure that kind of like operates my claw. So that in the future, when I go to want to build a software, I want to build something complicated like a trading bot, it's a lot more seamless process for me to just kind of talk to an agent and have things, you know, come into existence and work. I've had some pretty interesting experiences with the agents so far, insofar as their ability to like read charts, to draw charts, to like watch YouTube videos on trading and like kind of ingest that information. One of the first things I did in like week 2 of this was to see if I could get my bot to watch like the entire YouTube library of a you know, a trading channel that I thought had good content, and if it could like kind of teach itself a system. And the answer to that was like surprisingly yes, and also no. I had to make some tweaks to how it watched videos, how it did stuff like handle like one of the problems you have with a like a bot that's trying to watch videos on trading to learn how to trade is that a lot of the information in the video is not straight audio. Like there's stuff in the chart that's kind of being like pointed to, like levels or, you know, market structure, stuff like that. And it just gets lost in the transcript. So you can't just have it pull the transcript and train it on that, or it's sort of incomplete. But I was able to basically like build out a custom skill where it effectively like takes screenshots at regular intervals during the video when it kind of is detecting like a new sort of semantic topic coming into existence. And then it cross-references the screenshot it just took with the text that it's associated with. And it says, is this screenshot relevant to this text? If so, move on. If not, it starts taking screenshots forward and backwards at specific intervals of time until it finds the screenshot that is pertinent to that text. And then that becomes a part of the thing that it puts into the notes there. So yeah, I've got it to the point where it's very good at documenting a particular trading system, to the point where like I can have a conversation with it about the system and it'll parrot stuff back to me very, very, very well. But then there's like an enormous Grand Canyon of a gap to where you actually try to set it live and trade that specific system. And these systems I'm talking about are a little different than a lot of the ways people do trading bots, because I trade like price action, and it's not like rules-based stuff with like indicators and stuff like that. There's a lot more kind of discretionary art to it and like reading the structure of the market. That stuff is very hard versus like you have a strategy that you've coded. When the MACD is this, when price is this, when moving average 1, 2, 3 are this, that stuff is like a lot more simple to execute. Definitely going to lose my voice here. Okay. Where was I here? Yes. So again, Claude Cowork, definitely use that. You want a simple polished setup, predictable monthly cost. You're mostly doing knowledge document work or sitting in front of your screen, just coding kind of relatively simple stuff on a kind of, task by task basis. You don't need deep persistent memory across projects, or deep persistent memory about you and your business and all this stuff. OpenClaw is the way to go. Like if you are a crazy person like me and you want to try to work towards this like North Star of building something like really, hopefully stupendous, you need a lot of automation, that sort of stuff. Neither is better than the other. Just kind of depends what you're going for. The Siren Song of Automation is a thing I talked about earlier in this this presentation. There's this fantasy that you sleep, the agents work, money appears. This is what Alex Finn sells you and all his YouTube stuff. Everybody who starts with this, I think, starts mainlining his videos and like, oh my God, this is amazing. Look at what Henry did. I'm like 97% sure that like everything he says in those videos is complete bullshit. Like I'm 97% sure that like these things have not built anything useful for, there's just no fucking way. Like I think it's all performance theater. I think it's a giant grift. Right. So don't get hung up on that. The reality with this stuff is that like automation is like extraordinarily hard. And when you set it up, it breaks, and then you spend more time setting stuff up than you actually spend getting like good results, and then you end up in a place where you're like, maybe I should just sit in front of Claude and just code myself. There are certain things that are easier to automate than others. The autonomous dev workflow where you have, a project spec and the agent just seamlessly loops through it and builds everything out and just kind of like one-shots it. That's very difficult. That's hard to do. Especially if you layer on this kind of fantasy of your agents like continuing to ideate on new features for your app and everything themselves and build that out without breaking. I actually think that that's very possible. And I do have something like that operating pretty good right now. But building that was very, very hard, and it's still not foolproof. And it is definitely not like the first thing you should tackle here when you're doing this. The first automation that I had success with was doing very kind of specific granular tasks. Like one of the first things I ever tried to build was like a Twitter scraper. I wanted to see if I could build an app that would go through my Twitter lists, scrape all of the posts from those lists, and parse it into like actual trade ideas analysis on the market. That scraper was a very kind of like discrete, quantifiable thing. There wasn't a ton of outside the box thinking to do there, a lot of contingencies. It still was hard to do. There still was a lot of stuff that broke. It still does break from time to time, right? But that was the first thing I was able to get going pretty good. And I think this this scraping and parsing is like a really good use case for this. You can do most of this with like a hybrid model, right? Like you can run a lot of the scraping with like just with the code, right? And then you can layer on the AI to parse the output afterwards. You'll find that when you do these automations, these crons, one of the mistakes I ended up making and one of the holes I got into was every automation I built, I started building like with like AI. I was like, this is an AI automation. And it turned out like a ton of the stuff that I wanted to automate could have been done like mostly with code. It could have been done with like system crons or a bunch of other kind of pieces of code hacked together to get me like 95% of the way there. And when you build out an automation, like the very first thing you should think about is like, how much of this can I just build with like code? Because the code is much more predictable. It's much more consistent. It works out of the box. The AI kind of throws in like a whole million different variables on top of it that break. So that's definitely a tangible thing you can implement. Automate. Wait, did my mic cut out, Tom? Or are you just trolling me right now? Automate your client so it lets you know when your mic cuts out. I'm gonna assume you're trolling me and the mic is still good. So what I have set up right now in my OpenClaw is this sort of like 3-tiered thing that I talked to you about, where I am the creative, my OpenClaw is the builder, and I have a separate agent that exists outside of the builder agent that monitors what the builder is doing and makes sure that stuff is enforced, right? Stage one for people is they obviously realize they're the creative and the OpenClaw is the builder, and they do that. Then they quickly realize that the builder needs some checks to make sure it's working properly. But then you often end up in a situation where the builder is sort of like checking itself and it doesn't function properly. So in OpenClaw, you can basically create a standalone agent that is entirely outside of your builder agent. And that agent's entire existence can just be oriented around checking and verifying that the builder is doing the things that the builder is supposed to do. The crons that are supposed to be running are running. And when they're not running, right, it can trigger something to just fix stuff automatically. This is one of the huge frustrations with like working with this stuff is like, you'll see something broken that you built. It'll be so obvious that it's broken. You think you have an automation in place to catch it. Your agent doesn't catch it. You bring it to its attention. It goes, oh, by golly, that is broken. And then like 3 seconds later, it's like, fixed it. And you're like, why can't I just do that automatically? Why can't you just see it's broken and fix it? It was so easy. How hard is that? Turns out it's pretty hard. What I've done in recent days as well is I've added like a second layer to my operator, where I've actually started using Hermes as sort of like a standalone build out that exists outside of my OpenClaw, right? So from the outside, it can like do things like monitor if the OpenClaw gateway is down and the whole system is like not working, and it can like kind of autonomously troubleshoot it and debug it, which is what I do manually right now, right? Like if OpenClaw goes down, I'll fire up VS Code. By the way, like one of the elements of the tech stack I use, right, is I have the Mac Mini. You're going to want to set up like Tailscale, tunnel into the Mac Mini. So from like your normal computer, you can run like a VS Code instance that tunnels into your Mac Mini. So from your computer, you can run Claude code basically natively on the Mac Mini. It has access to the files, and it can just like autonomously fix things with your setup when it goes wrong. So adding on your maze agent now is basically allowing for something to exist that just does what I'm doing manually right now. It detects if like the gateway is down or particular other elements of the OpenClaw system aren't functioning properly, like maybe particular model fallbacks aren't working, or there's a whole list of 1,000 things that goes wrong. If those things go wrong, it can basically from the outside trigger, run, and manage like a Claude code or a codex session to debug and fix OpenClaw. So if OpenClaw breaks now, most of the time I don't even have to see that it's broken. It actually just gets brought back up and fixed before I get on there, which is very, very nice, right? So I've basically ended up with like 3.5 layers of agents that kind of do things, and this is like at a high level how all of this works. I'm actually not sure if these slides are relevant at this point. This is where the build out got a little effed up, so we may be clicking around a bit. The way I've set up my Discord is that I have like global channels. So I have a global channel for like my Opus model, my Sonnet model, and my GPT 5.4 model. And I use those as kind of like the high level brains to coordinate stuff around everything. I try to just use Sonnet when possible so that I'm not burning through my my Claude Max subscription. Opus like really torches your subscription very quickly. The other thing that's going to torch your subscription very, very quickly, if you're not aware of it, is the context window when you're doing chat gets bloated very, very quickly. You start using Opus and you're like looking at the cost of it. You're like, oh, that message cost me a half a penny. That seems fine, whatever. And then you start using Opus a lot in your chat. But then you gotta get deep in your session, and if you check your logs, you start realizing that like every single message you send is costing you like 50 cents, which let me tell you adds up really, really quickly. And it's because as the sessions go on, you get this context bloat, and like every single time you ping the API, you're sending this gigantic mass of tokens back and forth, and eventually it just like destroys it either destroys your your Claude Max limit, or it destroys your API bill. So you want to have a setup in your Discord that allows you to just talk to cheaper models when you don't need something that requires like deep thinking, because the cost can be like 1/100th, right? You also want to make sure that you are checking like your context bloat. Like, what does the context window look like from your session? Like, is it getting really, really huge? Because that could be bad, not just for your API costs. It could also start just giving you bad results, right? Your agent, once the context window gets bloated, could start hallucinating more easily. It gets confused. The output gets worse. Like I just had an instance before the stream where I had been working on this huge project, and I didn't realize that the window had gotten so bad, and we deployed something, and I cleared the window and had it look at it again, and it was basically like, oh wow, this is totally fucked up. None of this is gonna work. And so with like a fresh context window, I was able to debug it. So I do that at a high level with the Discord. Like I have these channels that are different models that go across everything. And then I have projects. I have project channels. So I have a nice little category. The top of my Discord. I think I've got it here. Yeah, so some of these channels are going to basically be deprecated. I have to do some cleaning up here. But you can see this Magic Capital project. This is one of the apps I'm building out. Core categories I use in my projects. I've got like a coordination channel to just kind of like handle like general stuff for the project. There's a strategy channel that I use to do all of the speccing out for the dev builds. And there's a dev themes channel. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. There's dev channels that are specific towards like high level modules that are being built. So there's like a themes page in this app. There's a feed, like a news feed. There's a Substack page. And then within these high level modules, I use threads to kind of like segment the exact builds that I'm doing. Before, when I was like building stuff, right, it's very easy to just come in there and blurt out a bunch of stuff, right? It feels good. You go for a walk, you just talk and take notes, and you come back and it synthesizes all your thoughts and it puts it into a thing and it goes and builds it. I found that creates like a lot of problems, and I've kind of reoriented myself back towards this idea of like maintaining these strict PRDs, project requirement documents, I think is what it stands for, that outline in excruciating detail what you're trying to build, the priority of stuff and all that, right? And where that detail becomes really, really important is if you want to build out a dev workflow that is autonomous, the thing that is going to bite you in the ass is the quality control element of it. It's really easy to get these things to just build a ton of stuff and for the most part deploy it correctly. But getting them to like confirm it's to have 5 back and forths where you wait for the delay of the message, it builds it, it tells you it's built, you check it. Mic cut out? Come on, man. Is it back? This is like the worst mic in history. Yeah, I'm seeing the mic on my screen. So hopefully it's back. This mic has like a touch interface for the mute, and I think like if I blow on it too hard, it just mutes the mic. It's stupid. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where I cut off there, but I was trying to talk about why I've gone through this like painstaking process of kind of like dividing out like the planning from the dev. If the way you do your builds is that you have like a strategy channel, so let me walk you back another step. One of the things that I've integrated into my tech stack that has been like a godsend for me is Obsidian. Discord is like your communication layer with this thing, and it's great. And in the early days, it's tempting to just do everything in Discord. It's so easy to like have it write you a PRD and just post it in Discord. Over time, this becomes unsustainable and very disorganized and chaotic. So I use Obsidian now as like like it's the source of truth for what we're doing and why. Not just like the projects that I'm building out, but like all of the specs like of our OpenClaw workspace, like what the agents are, what their memory files are, the skills that we use, the crons, like all that stuff like lives in documentation in Obsidian. And it's good because you just have something tangible that you can look at and see what's there. Because over time, like this just becomes like such a cluster. You have no idea what the heck is going on or what's being built behind the scenes anymore, right? So having like a set of PRDs for a thing that you're building out is really, really nice because you talk to the agent, you do all this stuff, and then you can go into your Obsidian. You can like actually look at what it looks like, right? And if you're really granular about this, like when you trigger like a dev build, like it can break everything down into these very discrete features that are being built out and define them what it means for that feature to be done, right? And this is where you save yourself on the QA end of things, right? Because if you do a build with like a very specific set of requirements, right? It becomes a lot easier to build like an autonomous pipeline where you have like a QA agent sitting on the back end that looks at what was built, checks it versus the specs, and it either signs off or kicks the loop back to the dev to fix stuff, right? So without that, like you're just never gonna have autonomy, or you're never gonna have autonomy that's good and useful. It's just gonna be a freaking disaster the whole time. I've also found that it's very nice to have a dev feed. One of the things you run into with OpenClaw that sucks is that like you sometimes don't know if it's doing anything in the background. It's just this black box, and it gets confusing, right? So in my dev pipeline process now, there's a dev feed, right? So when a build starts, there's a PRD. It breaks the build into like these discrete slices that are these kind of tangible things, and it'll kind of check them off live as it's going and doing stuff, which is really, really nice because you can see where exactly it is in all of your build outs. You can see when stuff like is broken, when something's being caught, not being caught by the the workflows you set up to catch breakages. Like ultimately you are kind of the backstop for this stuff. So having this visual is like amazing. And it also provides something for your Hermes agent or whatever kind of like outside ops agents to tie into to kind of independently verify that things are happening. Tom, this Discord communication hub is blowing my mind right now. Yeah. It's there's always this like really difficult tension when you build this stuff out between building out functionality that is good and useful and brings real value, and like over engineering the shit out of everything to the point where you create more problems. There's more stuff that breaks. There's more confusion. There's too much complexity for you to use it. This is probably like the 6th iteration of Discord that I've built out. I've been using this for about a week. I'm not sure that there's anything about it I definitely want to change yet. I've been pretty happy with how it's been going. I really like the strategy setup I have, right? It's just very simple. Like each one of these threads in strategy correlates like 1-to-1 with a note in Obsidian, right? It's very easy to tie those things together. on a rules basis, right? This thing gets edited. It gets edited in Obsidian. Um, it's super organized, and when I plan the project, it helps me because instead of just coming into the dashboard and just looking at it and being like, oh God, this is broken, and just blurting out a bunch of stuff to fix, like it forces me to kind of like segment my own thinking and focus. Like, okay, what is the priority right now? Okay, we're focusing on the back end. We're focusing on making sure that we're scraping all the data properly and we're parsing it correctly. And until we do that, none of this other front end functionality is going to work well. Let me focus there. Let me think about that. And I can go for a walk with my dog and I can talk to the agents and kind of like just have this process where it's like, where are we at right now? What do you think the next steps are? Where are some questions you have? How do I fill in the blank on this? Tom, missed the Obsidian detail. Yeah, so what we basically have is we have Obsidian and it's synced to GitHub, right? So basically the agent is editing files like locally on the Mac Mini, but those files are synced and mirrored to GitHub, and Obsidian is pulling those from GitHub. And also if I edit something on Obsidian, like I can push it to GitHub and then it can be received by the agent. So like I can actually communicate a change by talking to the agent about like a change I want to make for one of the PRDs, or I can literally just edit the PRD on my own and push it to GitHub, and the agent can kind of get it that way. So it's this nice kind of two-way street. The setup process is like a little bit funky. You have to do some stuff in the terminal. You got to install like GitHub CLI or something. You got to execute some terminal commands to connect the account and sync everything. But it's all stuff that like your claw can walk you through, or that it can like execute completely on its own, depending on what computer you're doing it on and like how much access you've given it. By the way, this was like an interesting thing with OpenClaw that I didn't understand how any of this worked, right? Everybody just told me like, oh, it's like it can just use your computer. So I started installing it and I was trying to get it to do things, and it was like, I can't do that. It was like, I can't do that. And I'm like, what is with this piece of trash? Like, this is supposed to be the thing that like uses my computer and is magical. There's actually quite a process for like giving it the root access to your system to do things. And if you want to limit that access, like, you know, that's also another thing as well. I basically have mine set up where it just runs on its Mac Mini and it has carte blanche to do like whatever the hell it wants on the Mac Mini now. And it's completely sandboxed there. And it took me a little bit to set up, but like I just kind of went over it in Telegram. I was like, just give me the sequence of terminal commands to like remove all of the obstacles you have to doing stuff, or like, oh, I have to manually click this button, or I have to manually like do this web page. So we did that one day. We went through all the commands, and now it's like it does everything. Like it can change settings on the computer, it can browse the web, it can click anything, and it's been really nice actually. It's kind of dramatically reduced the amount of kind of random BS I have to do. For example, like if my my Claude token auth expires, before I had to like go into the Mac Mini and like re-authenticate my login manually and click. Now it just does that on its own. It can just automatically do that, which is super nice. Do you have a succinct list of the different tools you use? Yeah, I should probably assemble something for you guys. My tech stack basically looks like the Mac Mini, right? So the Mac Mini is where this thing lives. I used a VPS before. It's fine. It's functional. Using the Mac Mini is way better. Being able to just, I have this like, you can't see it because you're on the other side of it, but I have this like 3 monitor setup here. And one of my monitors can be toggled from my main machine to the Mac Mini. Although what I ultimately did was I set up Chrome remote desktop. So now I just fire up remote desktop and my top monitor for the Mac Mini, and I can just kind of instantly navigate in the Mac Mini. It's good having it there. You can kind of see your agent doing stuff. It's a lot simpler to kind of like edit and fix stuff. I don't even know that you need to spend $600 on a Mac Mini. Like you could probably do it on a much cheaper build if you wanted to, and get similar results. Although I will say I have actually pushed the limits of my Mac Mini with the Crons that I have running. So you can't just run whatever you want on like kind of tiny hardware, even if you're not running a model locally. Like you still will break it at a certain point. Um, so Mac Mini, there's Tailscale set up on the Mac Mini, which allows me to port into that Mac Mini and kind of run code remotely, run Claude code, Codex instances remotely from various computers. It allows me to do stuff like, deploy website, the type of stuff you could deploy locally and just view on your computer without posting it to the web and viewing it on a website. You can do that. It's just kind of like a local network you can tap into. So that's nice. Um, I use VS Code just because it's what I used. That lets I have a VS Code instance running on my main computer right here. It's tunneled into the Mac Mini. I run Claude Code and Codex on that VS Code, like in my Mac Mini. I can execute terminal commands remotely through to the Mac Mini, which is nice. I use that to debug problems happening with OpenClaw. I used to, like when my OpenClaw first broke like weeks ago, many weeks ago, I lost 100 hours of labor, and it took me probably 24 hours of banging my head against the wall, talking to ChatGPT to get this thing fixed. I could do that now in 10 minutes with Claude Code. I could have just sent that command and gone outside for a walk with my dog and come back, and everything would have been fixed. Right. So it's a big thing that I wish I knew. Do not attempt to do this without first understanding how to use Claude Code Codex to run locally on the Mac Mini, to sit outside of the system and debug it, because this shit breaks constantly. Like it just always breaks. There's like multiple times a week you need to fix something in it. Um, whether it's because an update got pushed on OpenClaw or something OpenClaw ties into had an update pushed to it, or your agent made some update to its files that it thought would do something else, but it turns out, oops, I blew up the whole thing, which is what happened to me. I was setting up like Sonnet 4.6 way back when Sonnet 4.6 came out, and it wasn't like fully supported yet. And in doing that setup, my OpenClaw like nuked itself. Which leads me to the next critical element of my setup. I have a backup cron running. It backs up locally on the Mac Mini. It backs up GitHub, all the elements of the GitHub. There is a AWS bucket and a Backblaze bucket that has the files, right? So everything about my OpenClaw setup, all the local files on the Mac Mini, the GitHub, all the projects, all of the agent configs, the memory. You put a lot of time into you customizing your agent, how it behaves, what it knows about you. Having all that stuff get nuked is like the worst thing on planet Earth, right? So setting up a backup cron is like the most important thing ever. I would also do something that I didn't do initially, which is like have Claude Code just run your backup cron from outside of OpenClaw. Like I would not have OpenClaw run its own backup cron. So maybe that's also something I could do with my Hermes agent. Honestly, that's probably something I'll look into this week. But it's so easy to blow up your shit, and again, God forbid something happens to your Mac Mini. It's easy enough to back up locally, but something happens to the Mac Mini, especially if you give this thing root access to your Mac Mini and it just fries your Mac Mini for some reason. I don't know. It would suck to lose everything. So definitely do that. Other elements of the tech stack, the messaging is almost entirely done through Discord, but I also use Telegram. Discord goes down. It's good to have Telegram to kind of fix some stuff as a messaging interface. Also, sometimes I just multitask and I just do stuff in Telegram while other channels are occupied in Discord, but I mostly just kind of use it as like a backup failsafe option. The documentation, I already said we do at Obsidian, kind of synced through GitHub. You kind of push pull changes. You want your OpenClaw to basically mirror all of the documentation you have on the local Mac Mini. It's mirrored in GitHub. It's mirrored in Obsidian, where it's like kind of easy for me to kind of read everything. That's where all the PRDs live. I can kind of see what's going on with all the projects. I can see all the skills the agent runs, what those skill files look like. Which by the way is like more useful than you might think, because sometimes my agent will build out a skill to do a particular thing, and then I observe that the thing it's doing is not working very well. Like I have so many skills at this point, but for example, one skill might be to parse a trade idea from like a Substack article, for example, is something that we're working on. So if something's not working, instead of just at a high level being like, oh, this, I'm not getting the result, can kind of hone in on like, oh, the skill is where the failure is happening. Kind of look at the skill, and I can actually just take that skill, and I will sometimes just copy paste that skill into like Codex, like running outside of OpenClaw, or Claude running outside of OpenClaw, and I'll be like, hey, this functionality I'm trying to get isn't working. Can you look at this skill? And then oftentimes it'll be like, oh yeah, well that's this is obviously not working because of X, Y, Z. And I'll take that output from GPT, I'll feed it back to OpenClaw, I'll be like, hey, GPT said this about the skill. What do you think? And then it'll be like, yeah, I don't know why I wrote it that way. Honestly, that's a terrible logic, and it's definitely broken, right? So having that access is pretty useful. I've recently added on linear as a layer to this. It's for anybody who uses it. It's really useful for like bug tracking and for high level, just kind of like product organization. So my OpenClaw agent now, it also syncs the PRDs and the builds it's doing with linear. So there will be, specific modules for the project in the various stages of the development. There'll be the specific dev builds themselves, whether they're like in progress, whether they need review, whether they're back out for changes. And then there's a really nice interface to like kind of deal with bugs. Now, I don't manually put any bugs into linear. I just have some logic coded in these channels where I say, some hard rules, like where anytime I, say like, there's a bug, blah, 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 it follows a hard rule where it logs that as like a discrete bug in linear. So I can see that like feedback I've given it is like captured and it exists somewhere, and I can see if it's been fixed. Because again, like you do this over time, there's a lot of projects you're working on, pretty soon it just becomes like a freaking mess. So I think that's pretty much the entire tech stack: Mac Mini, Tailscale, VS Code, Discord, Telegram, some sort of bucket like AWS Backblaze for file storage, and then linear and Obsidian. That's kind of what I've settled on to use all this. I use Vercel, Vercel and GitHub for development. Vercel's worked pretty nicely. It has pretty nice API integration. It's worked very seamlessly with OpenClaw, so that's been great. Been super happy with that. Would recommend. All right, where was I? Oh, so one other thing that this is kind of like a deep cut. So don't feel like you have to implement this. One of the issues I have with using OpenClaw, and I don't know that this is just like native to OpenClaw. It's just like a problem you have with a model, right? You don't want to use Opus for everything because it's very expensive and it's mostly overkill, right? But also using a cheap model in areas where like you need more thorough output really shoots you in the foot. And you would think it would be easy to just like type a message in Discord and then the system automatically parses the message, decides which model to use, and then routes to that model. But that's very messy in practice, and at best slow. It adds a lot of latency. So what I've done to get around this is kind of like hard coded some keyword based elements of the names of threads and or channels, and I do the routing that way. So a thread is like a planning thread is going to have, or channel is going to have a PRD in it, right? So you can see PRD here. So anything that gets created in my Discord with this PRD tag, OpenClaw automatically knows to set the default model to Opus for that, because I want to use Opus for my strategy, right? Any thread that has a dev or like a run or a ship, something like that, that's a build thread. Build threads get automatically assigned to Codex. I like to use Codex for the build outs at the moment. I've just kind of enjoyed working with Codex for the dev work, and it also provides like a nice divide between like the front end of my Discord, which is mostly running on Opus, Anthropic logic, and kind of like a lot of the back end stuff, which runs on like my Codex subscription. And so these things aren't like stepping on each other's toes. And I've just found Codex works honestly just as good for me for the dev build stuff. So, but yeah, that's like kind of like an interesting thing I've built into this. It's kind of messy to switch models, right, in your Discord, right? You got to go like model, and then you got to type in like Anthropic dash Opus dash 4 dash. It sucks. Like it sucks changing models. So having some sort of like automated routing thing is kind of key. The other thing you have to build out, by the way, as far as your models go in OpenClaw, and you can see why OpenClaw is complicated, and I don't recommend it to a lot of people. If you try to not use the API feed and save costs, as you should, because I think if you just run everything through the API, you're going to be very poor. It's very nice that I can run, the Opus command channel and run it on Opus and run it on my Claude Max subscription. I did the math on this. It was like 1/5 the cost every month for the way that I was using it to use the Claude Max versus run everything through the API. But if you do that, you introduce like a lot of other failure points, right? So it's very easy to hit your Claude Max limit, right? And if you're trying to work on something important, you want to get it done, but you've like killed your Claude Max limit, you either just sit there and nothing happens, or you have it fall back to something. So I have these fallbacks. I have like a fallback configured to my backup Claude Max account in Opus, and then it will fall back to the API as like a third failsafe, just so that I can get work done. And I have a little thing to notify me when a fallback is happening, so that I know I'm on the API and I'm not like lighting a bunch of tokens on fire. God, I didn't realize how deep I got into this already. We're an hour and a half here. All right, I'm gonna have to figure out how to condense these notes here. Otherwise, we're gonna be here for like 4 hours. I'm probably gonna have to do a few more episodes on this. Let me see if there's anything else really important I should get to here. By the way, again, any questions you guys have, you let me know. Save you some pain. Save you some pain. Yeah. All right. Let me end this by talking a little bit about some of the stuff I'm trying to build out right now. Give you a sneak peek into some things. So this is very rough around the edges, so don't read too much into it. But I am basically at this point trying to build out a very, very broad-based tool to capture, analyze, filter, do all the things for like all of the broad swaths of data that are out there in the world when it comes to like investing and trading. I am operating under the mindset right now that like you can make a lot of money trading and investing without really knowing anything about trading and investing, because the amount of information that's being put out there right now and the quality of that information is very, 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 very high. The problem is it's very difficult for a lot of people to filter which of this information is good and which of this information is bullshit. And it's very difficult to find those gold nuggets from the noise because, like, let's be honest, like 99% of what's out there is noise, and a lot of it is just going to like trap you and like fuck you up very badly. So I am trying to basically build for myself initially, but I want to roll this out to everybody at some point. I am struggling with a problem that I have, which is that like, you know, I just work by myself. I trade by myself. I don't have a team of research assistants. I don't have any assistants, right? I am drowning in data every day. And I want to be more efficient at finding trade ideas, right? I have a lot of faith in my ability to take an idea somebody gives to me and be like, yes, that idea is good, or no, that idea is stupid, right? But I don't have the time or the bandwidth to do that. There's just there's too much information. Like I subscribe to a bunch of paid Substacks, paid research services, that sort of thing. I don't even read like half of the stuff I subscribe to. Never mind the rest of the world of Substack finance or the world of Twitter finance, or all the Discords I'm in, right? It's just too much information, right? But I think this is the perfect task for AI. So I've been building a tool that is going to kind of go one by one through all of these various traffic sources as for financial ideas, and to build out a system that is able to parse, filter, extract the important stuff from these ideas and deliver it to me in a format that's like actually usable, right? I want to just wake up in the morning and just get a bunch of trade ideas delivered to me, along with the source of that idea and a little blurb about it. And then I just want to wake up and just kind of like yes, no, various ideas. And I think that's going to be like a really nice end state for me. Phase 2 of this will be to start actively like rating the sources of these ideas, to start tracking the ideas ourselves. Like, do the ideas pan out or do the ideas suck, right? Over time, building up like a very deep data source of like all of the people who are proposing trade financial advice, right? And actually like rating and evaluating them, right? And then doing kind of like a Ray Dalio-esque believability model. Like if this guy says go long here, like we should put some emphasis on that. And if this guy says it, like we should just kind of write it off as noise, right? Because once this kind of data engine is built, then I think I'm going to be able to kind of move more into the realm of actually like doing some sort of automation, automated investing, automated trading on the basis of these ideas. Like if I can have faith in the way that they're screened and all that good stuff, right? I eventually want to like make like my own sort of agentic hedge fund, right? I want to build a whole research team, a whole trading team, I want the Magic Lines Discord to have like agents in there talking with everybody who specialize in like different areas of the markets. So we a crypto guy, a macro guy, a stock guy, that could be a value investing guy, a momentum trader, whatever. It's like the sky is the limit. And I think I can produce like a lot of like really, really cool output, but it's a big hill. It's a big hill to climb. And I have spent 95% of my time so far not building this. This has been like 5% of my time. The other 95% of my time has been in building out like the infrastructure, the workflows, the skills to like be able to pursue this in a way that is like actually sustainable and is going to end well. So that's where we're going. I'm hopeful that sometime in Q2, I'll have like a newsletter you guys can sign up for where you're just getting fed kind of like the filtered thoughts of my my best investing agents, best trade ideas of the week. I think that'll be a really cool first tangible step. And then ultimately, I hope, I hope by Q3, I hope we'll see how fast this goes, that you actually have like a nice platform that you can log into and use. Maybe you can, add your own list of Substacks you follow, input your own Twitter people, your own investing goals, themes you're interested in, just kind of build out like a really, really, really super sick investing dashboard. I think we're still very, very far away from AIs just autonomously trading for us. But I think we're like right there as far as all of us like needing like an AI co-pilot to like make our way through like the modern investing landscape. I think the idea that like we do any of this stuff by ourselves and try to just think through themes and trade and all that stuff is going to sound like hilarious like 10 years from now, because by then there'll just be everybody will have an entire team of AI research assistants, traders, like whatever they want, to kind of filter through all this stuff, because like why wouldn't we? It's going to be super cool. Anyway, I'll keep you guys posted on that, the progress of Magic Capital working title. So yeah, I think I'll wrap the stream up there. I don't see anything to. Oh, yeah. Tom, you asked me a couple questions. All right, I'll answer your questions and then we'll wrap the stream up. Is there a particular resource you found valuable when setting up, exploring the system, or all self-discovered? I didn't talk about this, but one of the interesting first things I set up as an automation that actually worked pretty well after I figured out how to make my X scraper work was I set up a cron for my agents to basically scrape all of the content on X as that pertained to OpenClaw every day, and to parse that and see which of the things that were discussed were like actual like tangible strategies we could use, improvements we could make to the system. And I had it deliver me like a daily newsletter of suggestions to improve like the system, the workflow, stuff like that. I actually learned about a lot of stuff from that cron I set up, not just from reading the stuff in the kind of daily newsletter that my agent gave me, but because that gave me a lead to like follow specific accounts on Twitter. I started rabbit holing through their stuff. I found out pretty much everything I know by just kind of curating a good list of people on Twitter and staying up to speed on AI Twitter, and by just like ruthlessly talking to the AI, right? Every time I cannot even tell you the number of times where I saw a tweet on Twitter about something, some magical thing that was going to change the way you did agentic AI work. I would just run that tweet by Claude in my OpenClaw, right? Because it has context of itself. I'd be like, what do you think about this? Is this useful? Can we implement this? Should we implement this? And in doing that, like a bunch of times, right, over and over and over again, I started figuring out what works, what doesn't work, what's real, what's not real. Yeah, the AI and talking with it, honestly, just about my own problems is the bulk of how I've figured stuff out. You just have to get into this mindset of like, this system, I'm trying to get to point B. I'm at point A. Here are the obstacles I'm facing. Like, can we talk through these obstacles? What are the solutions to them? And especially if you do that with the AI having context of you, your business, and its own architecture, which is what happens with OpenClaw, right? It's the main gist of it is it understands its own architecture. It understands your business, all your projects. It understands you and who you are and where you want to go. Just by constantly talking to it. Like I used to listen to podcasts like nonstop. Like I used to listen to like 4 hours of podcasts a day. Like anytime I was just walking around doing something. Question. Yeah. Hopefully I answered your question. Yeah. I need like a little shot collar that you guys just buzz on me. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Hopefully the mic's on. Hopefully that was useful to some of you guys. I know that was a bit different today. When pivot to AI influencer, I know, but yeah, this stuff is genuinely super interesting to me. Super fascinating. If the mic is back on now and you're hearing this, then if you want to know any more about the stuff I was talking about that got cut off, then you can feel free to ask me about it in the Discord and I'll help you out. I don't see anybody telling me that the mic went back on, so I'm guessing that the mic is still cut off. So, sad panda. I don't know. It's on now? Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know how much of that you missed. Yeah, sorry. uh, I'll allow one follow-up question if you guys want to get it in quickly. Because I don't know where that got cut off. I don't know where I left you hanging. So if anybody has one follow-up question, I'll wait a little bit for it to roll in. Oh, but then we gotta take Ziggy for a walk. Ziggy doesn't care about the AI. I know, buddy. I know. Agentic workflows are so fun. They're so fun. Oh. Ah. Uh, all right. That was fun. That was fun. I guess I'll I don't know how long this delay is, so I don't know if somebody's asking a question right now, but I guess I'll just wrap it up. Hopefully that was useful to you guys. If you liked it, let me know. We'll do more AI stuff. It's fascinating to me. It's honestly more interesting to me than the markets right now. It's just like mind-blowing shit. But yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the content. Be sure to like and subscribe. Join the Magic Lines Discord. We've got an AI channel in there, AI Vibe Coders. Got a whole thread for it. I know we've got his Stens in there. He's a real AI goat. Troy's in there, S tier developer. So lots of people willing to help you out if you wanna take this journey. So if you join, say hello. I'll see you in there. Otherwise, yeah, see you guys next week.